Today is March 13th for Back Roads of Illinois edition. I'm your host, Cesar Delgado. For today, this is your agricultural news and markets information about the agricultural industry in central Illinois and across the Midwest. CONAB report on Tuesday morning in Brazil that their beans numbers are lower than previously estimated, that the number are 112, 27 MMT to 118, 24 MMT. The corn yields is trending lower for this crop in central Brazil since December. As for the acreage report on March 28th from the Department of Agriculture, Illinois planting season is upon us, but it's going to be in a cold snap for this weekend in central Illinois after the storms in central Illinois. I visited Chip Nellinger from Blue Reef Agri Marketing out of Morton, Illinois. Chip see the acreage dilemma is pretty bearish from Friday's report on March World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimate report from the Department of Agriculture. Well, I interviewed with Kelly Garrett from Northwest Iowa about his family farm operation on Monday. You can catch the interview with Kelly Garrett on YouTube channel at Back Roads of Illinois. I got a sound bit from National Pork Producer Council for today. We were back with Brian Hoops in Springfield, Missouri for Midwest Solutions on Back Roads of Illinois.
Well, this year was a great opportunity for producers to gather together, which is so important after the challenging year that we've been through. But maybe more importantly, we elected new officers this year, and Lori Stephenrow did a great job leading us into next year and the wonderful year I'm sure we're going to have in the industry. We've worked on some very important resolutions, traceability being one of those. That's so important to our industry, corn animal disease, and our trading partners. And then we continue to look in at our industry and what we need to do better by bringing the states into the conversation. We've worked on the national organizations the last couple of years, and we're wrapping it up now by looking at the states as well. So very good year, good for the industry, good things to come for producers.
I had a conversation with Lori Stibemmer from National Pork Producer Council for this January. We talked about the pork industry.
This resolution asks producers to support a set of mandatory traceability standards which address gaps in our live swine traceability system. This really is a commendable, proactive step by our producers. And importantly, we are doing this because our industry exports 25% of our production. So if a foreign swine disease is detected here, we lose those exports. This resolution is an example of how we can show trading partners that U.S. pork is safe and return to trade.
Dr. Ann Further, Director of Animals Protocol for National Pork Producer Council. There is 25% from foreign animal diseases such as Western Hemisphere. Most recently, African swine fever is fostered to China. However, I talked with Lori Stibemmer about it. She said that we are working with their biometric and biosecurity of our farms.
The next step will be submission of the standards to USDA. From there, it will not be a speedy process. The writing, review, and comment period requirements by federal government takes time. So we expect this could take up to 3 years before implementation. There will be opportunities for producers to continue to engage throughout this time. And for anyone listening today, I would encourage them to utilize NPPC's Traceability Resource Hub at nppc.org/trace for up-to-date information throughout this process.
Next step will be submitting a resolution for biosecurity and biological standard to the Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C. for U.S. pork producer.
The producers are wanting a farm bill done. More importantly, they're wanting us at NPPC to protect their freedom to operate, their freedom to produce pigs on their farm the way that they know is best for them. They're excited about trade. We had a wonderful year on trade and looking forward to another big trade year coming up. And producers know there's a lot of work that goes into making that happen.
Scott Hayes, immediate past president of the National Pork Producers Council, talks about some of the highlights.
Well, this year was a great opportunity for producers to gather together, which is so important after the challenging year that we've been through. But maybe more importantly, we elected new officers this year, and Lori Stephenrow did a great job leading us into next year and the wonderful year I'm sure we're going to have in the industry. We've worked on some very important resolutions.
I'm joining with Brian Hoops for Midwest Solutions in Springfield, Missouri for Commodity Markets Update Minute. Welcome to the show. How are you, Brian?
I am doing well. It's good to talk with you again, Cesar. Always a pleasure to be on your program. Hope you are doing well also.
Let's start with our conversation on the CONAB report from Brazil's Agricultural Agency. CONAB report is showing that it was pretty bearish. What is your thoughts about that?
I thought it was a little negative as well, and I think the market took it the same way. We also had the Rosario Grain Exchange come out with their estimates, and they're kind of hinting the same thing, a little bit bearish compared to what some of the other private forecasters are talking about. Of course, the USDA has really failed to believe much of a bearish production number out of Brazil. They're more inclined to think it's going to be a very strong number, opposed to a lot of the private analysts. So, yeah, I think as we progress farther along in harvest in Brazil, we'll get a better idea, of course, of the yields. But for now, I think the numbers that we're starting to hear are maybe more bearish than what the trade has penciled in at this time.
Yeah, I heard that. What is your sources for the acreage report on March 28th from the Department of Agriculture?
Yeah, that's a little bit different report because usually we have it on the last Friday of the month. And this year, the last Friday of the month falls on Good Friday, and the markets are always closed in observance of Easter and the Good Friday holiday on that Friday. So we're closed on the 29th of March, and the report comes out on the 28th, which is a Thursday. So a little bit interesting, a little bit of a surprise. We've heard from some of our clients that there's not going to be much in the way of a shift in acreage. Likely to see less corn and maybe more soybean acres. And I would say maybe in that 2 million less corn range. The farmer wants to plant corn. He's set up to plant corn. And unless there's a major shift in either expenses or major shift in soybean prices that would steal some of those acres, I think we're going to plant a lot of corn acres this year, because that is where you can have the variability in yields. A 200, maybe a 275 bushel corn, depending on how growing conditions are without sacrificing prices that much. And that could be the difference in profit or not profitable this year. So soybeans, yes, we'll probably have a few more acres, probably going to lose a little bit of corn and beans to cotton, but I think the corn acreage number will be less of a hit than what was expected.
We will see on this report. I hope that things are going to be a good thing, especially the weather in the Midwest.
Yeah, that's what it's going to come down to is the Midwest and growing conditions. South America's soybean growing season and harvest of the first corn crop all looking very good. The second corn crop is being planted, and there is a little bit of dryness concerns in northern Brazil, but that doesn't look like it is going to be widespread enough to cause a dramatic rally. So it may come down to U.S. growing conditions, and can we see any type of adversity in weather that'll give us higher prices. I think we get corn from this 460 to 520 range. We should see a lot of farmer selling taking place for the corn market, and same thing for soybeans. We touched $12 earlier today, or just below it, and a rally in the 1240 60 range will find a lot of selling pressure from producers against those markets.
How are the grain market for today's close?
Yeah, pretty much lower across the board. Wheat was the downside leader as we saw very poor exports once again. We saw a couple private sale announcements last week canceled, and we saw one canceled this week. So that means next week's export sales on Thursdays will be reflecting that cancellation. And so we won't have very strong exports in back-to-back wheats. And that's going to keep pressure against our wheat futures, I'm afraid. We just are fighting an uphill battle trying to export wheat when Russia is using wheat to fund their war. Um, Corn and beans can kind of divorce themselves from the wheat market a little bit, but it's going to have to, really come down to how much we can grow, as we have too much supply right now and just not enough demand overall for our corn and soybean and wheat products. Listen to your podcast when I can.
Now that we are going to talk about the livestock market for today.
Yeah, cattle is where I'd like to start with. They rallied sharply yesterday, closing above a lot of resistance, and today they gave up a big portion of that rally, down almost 300 points in the April cattle. June down to 65, and feeder cattle $4.50 losses. So there's some big losses in the cattle complex today. I think if you're a producer, you really have to be looking at if corn does start to make further advances higher, it's going to cut in your profitability, and you need to get some feeder cattle positions in place and hedged. Um, the cattle market, we still have fairly tight supplies, but the consumers, I think, are likely to back off of the purchases they've been making recently, and that's going to keep a lid on these cattle rallies. I don't think we'll go as high as we did last year, but as we're approaching these upper levels, 190 and above in April live cattle, definitely need to be making some decisions to lock in profits.
We were talking with Brian Hoops from Midwest Solutions in Springfield, Missouri, on back roads of Illinois. So does you see the prices on these cattle markets tell us more demand that is coming for the summer months?
Actually, I'm thinking there's going to be less demand for these summer months. I think with the expensive uh, living conditions that we have across the country, high credit card bills, gas prices on the rise, consumer debt increasing, all this is going to hurt the lower middle class consumer. And I think they back away from higher priced beef as it becomes more expensive. They back away from it. And I don't think we're going to see strong demand trends. In fact, this morning we're a marketing year low, and those it tells us that if we don't have good consumer demand domestically, we have to have strong exports, and that is not the case either. So I'm starting to become very concerned, even though we have tight supplies, that the demand sector is not going to be there.
Finally, this grain market after the rally. Do you see the prices could be fallen to get $3?
I don't think right away. No, I think we have so much of the growing season in front of us. We don't know exactly how many acres we're going to plant. We could have a delayed planting, maybe some heat into the summer months. All that, I think, combines to tell us that, at least for the short term, we're not going below that $4 mark again until we get into the spring, maybe the summer months. And if we project a huge, massive carryout once again, if we have big yield potential, then I think we could see us dip below that $4 mark again and head into the threes. But I do think producers will have some opportunities. Corn in the 460s, 470 range right now. They should be able to lock in some some put options, lock in a 450 floor, 460 floor during the planting season, and then we can worry about prices below that $3 or below the $4 mark into the threes.
Thanks for coming, Brian.
Hey, appreciate being on. I hope you have a great day. Always love talking with you, Cesar. Take care.
The risk of trading for the futures and options can be substantial. This is Brian Hoops in Springfield, Missouri for Midwest Solutions on Back Roads of Illinois. We're back with the last segment on Back Roads of Illinois. We're back on Back Roads of Illinois with me. I am Cesar. Okay, we saw the numbers on the CONAB report from Brazil's agricultural agency in Midwest alongside in central Illinois. We're ready for this planting season, however. There are many different things that are doing iffy, but we will see on the acreage report from the Department of Agricultural. Next week is going to be Illinois Election Day on Tuesday, Joe Biden between Donald Trump. However, we will see on Tuesday night. The Republicans and Democrats must be passed for this year. All right, see you tomorrow with Matt Cruz from Comstock in West Des Moines, Iowa. Thanks to listen to Back Roads of Illinois. Well, folks, there's our show for today for Central Illinois and across the Midwest. For Back Roads of Illinois. I'm Cesar Delgado. Have a good day.